Hi, my name is Alex Shapiro. I'm a financial advisor in the financial industry. I've been in the business since 1993, worked for a few investment houses, but a lot of years I spent on the banking side. On the banking side, that means in the banks. Financial advisor for the clients, for the banks, such as Washington Mutual, such as Chase, such as Dime Savings Bank. For the past 15 years, I'm the owner and principal of Target Capital Group, which I work in. It is my business, my office, and I work with individual clients. We build strategies. We're trying to prepare for retirement, as you say. But I like George when he said he'll never retire. That is my motto. I never want to retire because, I don't want to play bocce, and I always want to have my brain on the sharp side of the business.
Where is your office?
My office is located here on Coney Island Avenue and between Y and Z.
So we can always find you.
I'm always there, local here. There's a lot of other offices within my office, so there's a lot of legal representation going on.
Okay. So what is your overall investment philosophy?
Well, as a philosophy, I prefer to work on a long-term investments. Long-term investments, which includes a lot of mutual funds, some stocks, of course, some strategies we build, bonds on a more conservative side. Some mutual funds are on the riskier side. Some stocks on the riskier side. Some of the persons who introduced themselves, they said they do a few IPOs. Sometimes when we get allocations, we do those IPO, but it's on the rare side. I like to diversify my clients in terms of different types of market sides. See, the market has a lot of different arrays within it. There's a high side, there's a low side, there's a high investment side, there's more conservative sides. Market is a living thing. Market these days, it's got very speculative and political. Every time you hear something on the news, the market jumps up and down. You never know. So therefore, I like to build a portfolio which covers sort of on a straight line. On the market, basically, on an annual basis, if you are on a conservative side, you should be making between 7 and 11% total. If you're lucky enough to get into a high side of the market, since it's been doing for the past 2 years with our new president, you just did very well.
But you could have go the opposite.
It could have gone the opposite,
Right.
but that's why I like to
tolerance.
build diversification on portfolios, that in the event that market tanks and you are not doing that well, you're always protected on the other side. So it could be triple tax freeze investments, it could be a bond investment. On the other side, it's as you know, we as civilization, we are moving into a lot of automation, a lot of semiconductors, a lot of technology which is taking over. So we're trying to diversify in those areas.
Some people ask, why do we still use brokers when there is a lot of low-cost platforms where they can trade themselves?
That is true. You could use Ameritrade, $5 trade. You could use Schwab. You could use a lot of different guys and platforms that you could do for yourself, but you're left to yourself. If you do your own business, if you are in IT, if you have to go to work every day and be busy with your own work, to come home after a while and to go through your list of investments, how you doing, it's sometimes cumbersome. So therefore, there are guys like me and girls, of course, that are doing this type of job, preparing, investing, doing different type of researches, which are very important. And the people who are doing it themselves, these are the real numbers now, who are do self-investing, I'd say about 95% lose money. Because this is not their business. Even though everybody who introduced themselves, they all work for the financial industry and those platforms. To do this actually day in, day out, it's a little bit more cumbersome than it sounds.
Okay, so we spoke about diversification as one of the ways to reduce the risk, right? You don't want to put all eggs in one basket. Warren Buffett said that, right? So you want to diversify your funds. There is another aspect.
Yes, I'm sorry. Warren Buffett also said, "I don't buy stocks. I buy companies." You know.
He said many things. One of the other phrases Warren Buffett said, he said, "Don't save what's left after you spend. Spend whatever is left after you save." Okay, that's if you want to grow, if you want your wealth to grow, that's the philosophy. Okay, so when you save it, right, that's where we come in. If you do kind of embrace the fact that I have to save money, you have to let them grow. You have to let them work
Right.
for yourself.
Buffett's one of his most famous funds is Berkshire Hathaway.
Yep.
You know, that fund today it's trading at $320,000 a share.
One share. He never split.
A share. People 10, 15 years that bought it for 80,000, they said they were spending a lot. Today they're happier than it's really funny. He never split the fund, and it only grows and you can't get in. And it's limited, it's closed on fund now.
So next question, so we spoke about diversification. Next important topic is liquidity. Why liquidity is important?
Well, I'll tell you why liquidity is important. The way I work, when I present funds or strategies to my clients, I usually not sell, bad word, advice. I usually give them advice on mutual funds have different divisions within the fund. Could be A shares, B shares, C shares. I mean, all A, B's and C's, there's sort of a hold on you. You have to hold it a certain period of time in order to get liquid. I prefer to work with A shares, they're more liquid, the price is always better. Plus, the liquidity point. These days, you sell today, you get your money tomorrow. It used to be a requirement, a 3-day settlement. The firms that I work with now, it's 1-day settlement. You can get your money the next day. And everybody has, of course, something that's coming up in their life. I found a nice piece of real estate. I want to buy this car. I want to buy a ring for my wife. I want to buy a fur. You know, something. I want to go for vacation. So people want money and need money. So liquidity is very important.
Comparing to, well, let's say, what we know, we go to the bank and bank sells you
A CD.
a CD, right? It pays 2%, but they lock your money.
2%.
No, let's say
2% went too high.
1%, but they lock you down. No, around 2%, but they lock you for 12 months, 18 months.
How many years?
Like I
Since
said,
you answered. How many years is the 2% CD?
Even 6 months. Not even 6 months CD.
But that's introductory rate, so they can get you in. Well,
So the point is, they lock you down. So when you want to go on vacation, you cannot get these monies.
And moreover, if you own a CD, let's say you own a CD, let's say you own it for 6 months even,
But
or
2% of nothing can you pay, so it's...
Exactly.
we have an inflation that's running at 3%, so I don't know what that 2% does for you. But let's say you got a CD. Let's say the CD is coming due, it's matured, right? You have 7 days to take it. If not, they automatically will relock you for lower maybe rate for a longer term. And more importantly than that, on that CD, whether you took the interest or you didn't take that interest, at the end of the year, the bank will send you a 1099 for which you're going to have to take it to your accountant and pay tax on it.
Sure.
So I don't know personally me, I'm not a big proponent of CDs, but that's
No, I'm just giving example of not liquid investment
Not
versus the
non-liquid, liquidity,
where
yes.
you can keep saving.
or for that matter,
And
you could
take
talk
it out
about
when you want.
annuities.
Same, yeah.
Annuity, they sell it as it's the greatest invention since sliced bread. Annuity this, annuity this. Annuities used to be good. When I used to work for Washington Mutual or Dime Savings Bank, we used to have a straight up annuity, 5 years, 5%.
Yeah.
So you used to get those percentages for 5 years. After 5 years it matured, you could take it, do whatever you want. Plus the money were tax deferred, not tax free, tax deferred. So you could have rolled it. In today's world, annuity, the chassis they call it, 7 to 10 years. They give you an introductory rate of 1% over the 2% that they give you. So you get 3 over time, and especially if it's a fixed annuity, it's a very low percentage. Plus you're locked in. And if you want to get out, they're going to start charging you premature withdrawal fees.
Yes. So that leads us to one of kind of my favorite strategies for IT professionals is triple tax-free investments.
Yes. Very good question. Thank you. Triple tax-free investment is the following. Those are the mutual funds which are triple tax-free. They're called the muni funds. Why they're muni funds? Because they invest into the state of New York. You all New York residents. As a New York resident, you are allowed and you're given a strategy where you have a fund which invests in New York. It could be schools, it could be general obligations, it could be infrastructure of the state. So they give you, as the residents of the state of New York, no city, no state, no federal taxes. So these funds pay between 3 and 5%. Now, on a triple tax-free basis, this 3 to 5% come out to be 6% or even higher based on your tax bracket. So it's a plus. They're as liquid as we spoke. There's liquidity to it. You could take the money, you could not take the money. Plus, on top of this, that fund pays a monthly dividend. It's not a 6 months dividend or annual dividend. Every month you have a dividend coming in. Now you have 3 choices with that dividend. You could either send it directly to your bank account. You could reinvest it into more automatically. That's called dollar cost averaging. Or the third way, you could just keep the money in the account. So it's always liquid, always gives you money, it saves you money. I have a client, he's with me over 15 years already. He sold a house at the time. He brought in $600,000. We bought the fund. 15 years. He used to get a year, $36,000. Over 10 years, he already took out $360,000. Triple tax-free. He didn't pay a penny in taxes. Not a penny. Plus, the money is still there, and he's getting dividend. Some people like dividends. Some people like to buy more shares so the dividend grows. It all depends, but the flexibility is there. The liquidity is there. I think it's one of the most versatile funds out there. But, of course, this fund does not give you 10, 15% growth. It's a conservative side. You, as Roman said, you want to build another stream which is set. Personally, it's a very good investment, but I don't like to put all my eggs into the same basket.
Exactly.
I like to, as we talked about diversity, I like to diversify. There are different funds which now pay between 15 and 20% in the tech sector, semiconductor sector. These funds pay a lot, but I have to tell you, the market jumps, they jump with it, whether up or down. It could. Some people can tolerate that type of risk. Or not even a risk. I mean, you're not selling it at that day, but the blood pressure, the stress is there. Some people can take it. Some people can't. So it all depends. You know, when I work with my clients, It's always on a one-to-one basis. We sit together, we talk, we decide. I feel out the person to see what's the tolerance amount of risk that he can take, and then we build a strategy, build a pyramid around that.
Okay, so that's good. Just to summarize, I think these triple tax-free investments or funds are a good starting point for conservative investors like IT guys, because they don't move a lot. They pay a little bit, but they pay steady. While you have a job, you can keep increasing it. You can keep putting some money away into that fund every month, right? Plus the dividends grow, so kind of grows. When you, between the projects, you switch on and you get a check every month into your checking account, generating you extra cash stream. You go on the project again, you switch.
Right. One more thing.
Will that work, right?
That would definitely work. One more thing. You guys, when you work for the companies that you work now, you all have a 401k or 403bs.
Hold on, we'll jump into that.
You
in a
want to
second.
jump?
Just give me a second. So for this triple tax free, so it's easy to get in, provides you liquidity, flexibility. You have an account, you see what's going on. Because they don't move, and I just want to give my personal example. When I started, like first time got my IRA and moved it, I was on the market, so I couldn't control myself. Every day I would check the balance if it's moving or not. So you get into this, you can get into this crazy mode. So these funds will kind of protect you from go crazy. Once you get a little bit kind of experience, yes, I'm in the stock market, I'm an investor now, right? And you don't have this crazy rush, oh, I want to invest everything into speculative investments. Now, partially you can start moving into a little bit higher risk investments, but now your head is prepared for this. You understand?
I just opened an account last week, 2 weeks, and the lady that we opened an account with, we spoke about it, and I told her, please, I'll give you access to your account. I'll give you, I have to give it to her, but even though I ask her, please don't look at it every day. Do yourself a favor, because what's going to happen is you're going to get into that mode, looking at it every day. It goes up $100 up, $300 down, $5,000 up, and you don't know what to do with yourself. Should I sell?
Exactly.
Should I keep? It's going down. I have to protect that money. I have to. It's crazy after a while, but then people get into it. Once they see the steadiness of the account as it grows little by little.
That's what I'm saying. You have to get into that mode. Hey, don't look. But it's very hard not to look. It's my money. It's very hard. It's right there. So I'm just saying it takes kind of mental maturity first to mature where, okay, we're from the speculation and excitement, just let it go. let it work.
I like to speak to my clients at least once a month. I like to see my clients at least every quarter, once a quarter. So this way we keep up our relationship not only on the phone, we see each other, we speak, we feel each other out, what's going on with you, how are you? After a while, I have clients that I have mother, father, their children, their nieces. I mean, it's generational already. And it's rewarding this way. Now, in reference to the IRAs, as we were going to talk about,
Right.
you people who work at your positions where you work at, I don't know whether your contracts are due every 6 months, every 2 years, every 3 years. You all have 401ks, 403bs. When you leave your jobs, your 401ks and 403bs stay with the past employer.
If you didn't move it.
Right, we're coming
Or
to that.
sometimes they make you move it.
Sometimes, no, most of the, very rarely they make you move it. Most of the time they let you sit there.
Yes.
But you could always, whenever you are moving from position to position to position, you could always take it with you. We provide a service where we open up a rollover IRA, which the reason I say that is when you are in the 401k for the past company who you work with, or even you renew the contract, well, then you have to stay with them. But if you don't, they give you a very little choice of the funds that you could get into. They give you 5 to 7, maybe 10 different variations, and you have to stay within them.
Yep.
A lot of companies also say, well, look, we're gonna match whatever up to 3%, whatever it is, but then you have to buy our stock. A lot of companies they do that.
Yeah.
You get the 401k, you have your mutual funds, but for some of the monies that we're gonna put in with you, you have to buy our stock. So you are sort of tied into that. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. I'm not saying it's a good or bad, but it's a strategy that they want to move their stock because they don't want to sit on paper. They want to move the positions out.
So the point is, once you're out of the job, right, you have a freedom to make choices. So it's a good idea to bring the statement.
Yeah, always bring the statement. Listen, there's only 2 choices on that statement. Whether you stay with the old company or you move it. And there's no pressure. I mean, we talk about it, we discuss. If we see that particular 401k performs well to the market or above, then you stay. If not, and you feel more comfortable to work with me, so we'll move it. It's a simple operation. The money doesn't come out of the account. We do not create a taxable event. It's rolling from point A to point B, and it's just there. We're just moving the positions around.
So this leads to interesting question. If you have free cash, it makes sense kind of to invest to the tax-free investments. But now you were talking about the fund that pays, let's say, 11%, right?
Well, 11%.
If it's an IRA, 7 to 11, let's say. Okay, so higher, but it's taxable. But if it sits in the IRA,
well, anything that sits in an IRA, it's tax deferred. But you understand, we're talking about the retirement strategies. You have at one point in time you're gonna have to take the money.
right? But then growing tax-free,
It's much
better.
It's faster. But in the IRA, you have 2 types of IRAs, guys. I think you know about it. One is traditional, one is Roth. So traditional IRA, it's tax deferred completely. And Roth IRA, you pay your taxes today, but it grows tax free. So it's all within your purview. I mean, when you do an annual investment into IRA, it's $5,500. If there's a catch-up provision where you're over 50, you could put another $1,065. But when you're rolling it, you could roll the whole amount, but that doesn't affect it at all.
okay, there is one more question. More questions, but one of the questions is where the money is held. What is the back office?
The money is held with the third-party clearinghouse. It's never held with us. The check's never written out to my company. It's always written out to a third party who generates the statements, who administers the account. There's 2 types. There is a custodial account, which is for the IRA, and there is always there's an investment account, a joint account, which is under that heading, but it's also held in a third-party clearinghouse.
Okay. Another question. So I move my money into this brokerage account with you. What happens if something happens to me? If I die?
That's a great question. You have a chance to open up those accounts under the individual heading, but within that, it's called TOD. TOD stands for transfer on death automatically. That's a very good thing that you asked, because I had clients who passed away, and then there was no on the IRA accounts. You have to name a beneficiary,
Right.
whether it's a primary or contingent beneficiary, but you have to name it. Therefore, it goes directly to them. On the individual accounts, it is not so. So they made a provision that's called TOD, transfer on death. What happens is, let me give you an example. A person had an account with me. She passed away. She had $300,000 in the account. It took her children 6 to 8 months to go to probate court.
Yep.
To pay the attorneys 10% of the value of the account. That's what it came down to. to write the letters of appointment, to write all these things. The judges always have time to rule, so it took him 6 to 8 months to get their money out. So what happens is in the TOD account, if something happens to that individual, if it's a joint account, it goes automatically to the other jointee. But in the individual account, TOD, you name the person, you bring the death certificate, and it goes directly to that person. And it's just that smooth. You avoid that probate, which really takes a lot of nerves, time, and monies that you have to pay that you did not have to pay.
Right. Okay, so now I'm gonna open the floor for the questions. If you guys have any specific questions, I think Alex will be happy to answer.
Yeah, sure.
So you mentioned that your last example about the case that somebody died and it took I don't know
It
a lot of money to get through the
It took
probate.
10% of the value.
Right.
Attorney's fees came out to be. I mean, they don't never mention it to you, but it came out to be 10% of the $30,000 had to be paid until the money was given to the
But
people.
I mean, the account itself, is it subject of estate tax or not?
No,
If you no,
there's no taxes on the TOD account.
no tax.
There are taxes. Well, if you know that the death tax, they call it, generational tax, has been right now taken away. We don't know how long it's going to be until the new administration comes in, but there is no
Also,
such thing anymore.
At all?
No, not at all.
Not
No
on
cap?
5 million?
There's no cap. They just don't have death. They call it the death tax. What happens is, if I passed away and the money went to my children and my account was $1 million, estate taxes always came in. They call it generational tax.
Right.
Skip the generational tax. They don't have it anymore. If you noticed, if you ever bought Sunday Times, there is a section that's called estate taxes. Why do you think that happens? Estate taxes sale. It's a sale. So if Mr. Jones passed away and his children inherited his estate, it was taxes up to 60%, 70% to the government because they inherited this. So
But if estate is over, I don't remember, 5 million?
yes,
Yes.
they moved that tax out.
Okay, so no
They
more.
moved it at all?
Right. They used to be, they say under $1 million, nobody cared. Over $1 million, you had to pay. So what they did, they used to do a lot of estate sales. People would come in, they would do an auction, estate sale auction. So whatever is in the house, they would sell it off, sell the house, pay the government, they're your partners now.
Right.
And then keep whatever it was. Some people couldn't pay the tax, so they sell everything out. So that's been dealt with. I don't know for how long though, but I hope so. It stays.
So die now before you have a chance.
Before you have the government take it away. He talked about retirement. It's a funny thing with retirement. I mean, they're moving the age, the goalpost. I kept on moving further and further away. If you were born at 1960 and up, like me, I was born in 1960. Now, why do you think they made the retirement age of 65? Why is that?
Who?
I mean, the government, the retirement age was at 65.
Because your life
No,
is
now
meant to
it's
be
67.
75.
No,
No.
less than that. Because it used to be that once you reach that age, you live in retirement between 3 and 5 years, period, in those days. But since the medicine improved, now you could outlive your retirement money. You could average. Let me tell you this statistic. In New York, a man averages 80. A woman is 85. So you live in retirement at least 20 years if you're a woman. That's why there's a lot of transgenders now. They want to. No, I'm just. So this is why 65 used to be picked as a.
But it's 67. The computer.
Wait 1 second. Right? No. It used to be 65.
Oh, used to be.
Now, since people live longer in retirement, if they outlive the monies that they have, they move the retirement age. I will be retiring at 67 and 10 months. That would be my full retirement age.
I think 67.
I looked it up.
No, maybe 66 in 10 months.
No, 67 and 10 months. Almost at the age of
But
68.
It was
Look, it's very easy.
kept.
You go into Social Security,
Right.
put in your Social Security number. It will bring up your history and it will tell you your full retirement age. Your 80% retirement age, your full retirement age, and your retirement age at 70 if you want, how much will they
Yes,
pay.
yes.
So sometimes it's you don't have to be, I mean, just even though when we finish here, go on your phones and you'll see it, it's right there.
No, but
So it's gonna be 68 for me.
Not more than 67.
Of course more. Definitely
Something
more.
new in this case.
It keeps going
It
up.
keeps going up. They're raising it up.
I was at the impression.
Because the population is growing.
Right.
And once the population growth is going to continue the way it is, they have to get the age higher, because you know why? Because they have to start paying you later. It's all about the money. It has nothing to do with compassion, with any of that. It's all about the money.
I was under the impression before 1960, as you mentioned, it was prorated up till 67. After, if you born on 60 or after, it's 67.
No, it's more. I don't want to say you're wrong. I say you're misinformed.
No, I looked many times at my retirement statement. But
Yeah. Yeah, look at it. I mean, you know that letter that comes into you
Yes,
with
but
green
no,
writing. You when you turn the page, it says
No, I'm
full.
not getting letters, I'm looking online.
Look online
They-
again.
They
Yes.
stopped sending letters at some point.
Any other questions?
Can you talk a little bit about your strategies for various ages and account sizes?
I'll tell.
So let's say 10,000, 100,000, a million.
In terms of stages of how much money you
No,
would
in
invest,
terms
of the
of-
age that you are at.
What I meant to ask is 10,000 in assets, you use these type of strategies. A client has 100,000, you talk to him differently than to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And a million, you have even more ability to diversify it. So how
I'll
life
tell-
cycle we talking?
I'll tell you this. The rule of thumb for me, number one, depends how old you are, that's how conservative you get. Let's say you're 50, 50%, we'll get to the amounts. We'll get to that. If you're 50 years of age, you, in my strategy planning, you're going to be 50% conservative. Very conservative, 50, at least 50%. And from that point, and that will build out more. Now, in terms of 10,000, 100,000, all my clients are the same to me. It's just more ability to diverse more than diverse less. If you have $100,000, if you have $10,000, and we want to put some money into the conservative side, some money into more aggressive side. If you have $100,000, we'll go along the same side, but we will add different types of, as I call it, we could add on ETFs. You know what ETFs are? Exchange traded funds. We could add on, well, if you really want to go very, very aggressive, we could open up an options account, or we could open up a margin account. Then you could really go into the market. But again, those are very, very risky propositions. If you don't know much about options, well, margin is different. Margin, they give you 50% margin on the stocks, which are marginable, and you can, instead of buying 50,000 shares, you could buy 100,000 shares. But with that, they charge you margin interest. The stock goes down, either you sell or you have to be able to provide more cash. With options account, if you long the stock, do you understand the verbiage there?
Yes.
When you own the stock, when you long the stock, you could write calls. So that's another defensive strategy where you could make more money, but you're running a risk of being exercised, not executed, bad word, exercised, that they take away the stock, but you already made money with it. There's a lot of strategies, but on the more basic side, it's a little stock, a little mutual fund. I try to stay away from annuities. I'm not a big proponent of it. It takes away a lot. I believe it takes away a lot. Some people are sold on these instruments. Every investment instrument that's out there has its pluses and has its minuses. It all depends to the person's risk tolerance. It's how much can you take it. I mean, some people say, I don't want to lose anything. Well, there's only two types of accounts that don't lose anything. It's a CD and it's a savings account and a checking account. Anytime you are subject to the market risk, there is an amount of risk that you have to take on. Some people more flexible, they can take it more, some people less. But based on your overall status and your ability to take risk, this is how we build a strategy around it. So overall, you would be up. It's not, the big saying is, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. If you remember 2007, 2008 with the market crash, if you were here already and you know that, what I did with my clients, I moved everybody into cash. We moved out the positions, we exchanged, we didn't even sell, we exchanged position into cash. And a lot of clients stayed and they did not lose any money. Because you had to be proactive, you have to do something with that. And then when the market turned, we all made money. But it's very important to be on top of the situation, what's going on.
Thank you.
Any other
What is
questions?
your favorite products? What is your favorite product for retirement accounts, conservative investment?
If you're talking about an individual account, or you're talking about IRA account.
Retirement account, IRA.
So an IRA account,
Traditional.
IRA account, the products would be, well, first of all, you cannot put a triple tax-free account in a retirement account because it defeats the purpose. I mean, it's still going to be taxed as a retirement account because it's tax deferred. So therefore, the favorite products are mutual funds, long-term investments. The funds are in a big spectrum between bonds, technology, pharmaceuticals. I like emerging markets. Those are the type of accounts I'm trying to, and never into one position. I like to diversify positions so you capture the array in the market. So if one side is not really working, the other side would be picking up and keep the account growing. The most important thing is keep the account growing. Plus, we also offer accounts for children. The 529 plans, if you know,
savings.
College savings accounts. Those accounts are very good. I mean, why good? Why these accounts are good? You could put up to $250,000 into the account
A year?
total. It's not a year.
Yeah, I thought at least I can put 10% in here.
Only state free.
And stage
Still
two.
paying federal.
Right.
Okay.
But you can spend on them only for education.
But into the education comes in a lot of different things. It could be logic, books, education, a lot of things that if let's say your child wants to live on campus, that's also included in it. There's a lot of stuff. Plus, you are the one that's the account holder. They cannot use the account without your okay.
Or the kids.
The kids.
Okay.
There's also account for kids that it's called custodial. Now, on the custodial side, up until the age of 18, they become the account owners. And whatever money you put in there, and how you saved on taxes, because there's such grades there, then its account is theirs. And there's nothing you can do. It comes in their possession and do what they want with it. But here you maintain control of where that money goes. It's very important.
One point about the college savings account, when the kid is kind of applying to college and fills out the financial application, they do ask if you saved anything for the kid's college, and colleges just say, okay, that's our money. So they just assume that that's it. We gotta grab every last cent out of it.
You're accepted.
That will guarantee you from getting any grants,
Well, exactly.
sponsorship.
Exactly. So they would deplete this account first
Right.
until you see any
Right.
penny of the grants.
Of any grants,
If any.
yes.
So, but again, if your total family income is over $100,000, you probably will not see a penny of the grants
Look.
or anything like
150
that.
now.
No, very like $150. Okay.
College.
And it's very important, guys. The cost of college education grows 7% a year,
Yeah.
and it does not stop.
Yeah.
There's no way it's gonna stop. I mean, they ran it up to a point where people pay $50,000, $70,000 a year
Yeah.
if they don't want to take the loans.
It's
No,
So-
it's going up to 100 a year.
it's
In the-
it's crazy.
in
It's
some
crazy.
colleges.
And this is not really Ivy League. This is just
Yeah, average
Private
colleges.
colleges.
private colleges. First 100. You know?
Yeah. Okay, good questions. Any more questions, guys? When can they make an appointment? How do they make an appointment? How do they get in touch with you?
They get in touch with me through, of course, my telephone number. If
So
you,
give me some cards.
yeah, I'll
Okay.
before I leave, I'll give cards, and you could give it to the guys.
Okay, so I have a question. You probably heard that we have a lot of annuities now on the market. They're mostly sellable. They're actually mostly offered by former insurance
Companies.
They're not even formal.
representatives. They have kind of strategy now that you invest a certain amount of money and they guarantee you pension, let's say 50,000 a year, 17,000 a year, depending from your investment.
Yes.
They also assure 7% growth at certain period of years. What is your opinion on all those products?
Look,
different sides.
Before the annuity market has changed, I was a proponent of annuity, and it was a straightforward annuity where it gives you a straight percentage for a number of years, and then you are sort of annuity free. I mean, the money is still sitting there, but you can take it out at any time. With the annuities these days, the whole period is between 7 and 10 years. The strategy is the following: they are giving you either a fixed product or they give you a market product. That means that a big portion of your annuity goes into the mutual funds. Again, and they also give you a step-up provision on that annuity, which does the following. I mean, if the account goes above a certain amount, it will never go less than that. That's a plus. I'm not going to dispute that. But in a whole, the annuity it has a big hold over your investment. I mean, if you're putting in a whole lot of money in it, you are tied into that company. There are fees, which are annual fees that goes in there every year. They don't control the market. There are step-up provisions. Plus, you could always, which is good. You could also take they call it period. It's called certainly. What's the word? I forget.
You can take
Period certain. They got period certain that you could take out 10% a year for the next 10 years until your annuity or whatever is greater. The annuity rounds out or not. For me personally, I'm not an annuity guy anymore. I like liquidity very much. I like to be able to make decisions in and out of the products, which I do or do not. I mean, a lot of people, the way they present it, they sell it, the booklet is beautiful.
Are they guaranteed against the loss? Is it like 100%
Well,
guaranteed?
there is certain guarantee there. He said the 7% guarantee, 7% income.
Right, but what about the principal? Let's say if it's AAG.
If you are in the fixed side of the product, your principal is guaranteed.
So they buy insurance.
If you are in a variable part of the product, which are mutual funds, you are not guaranteed.
Okay.
Definitely not guaranteed.
So there is something to be said.
There is a
for the
risk.
minorities.
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, thank you for the good questions. Thank you for participation. We'll be conducting the seminars on Thursdays, okay, because I'm teaching